we're going to open the meeting for the Conservation Commission for February 18th. We're going to do a roll call. Ken?
Here.
Haley?
Here.
Paul's not here, right? No Paul. Eleanor?
Here.
And I'm here. So that's a quorum. Okay. The first item is to do the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Okay.
I actually have edits I wanted to make, but we can do that later. I'm just not, the date at the top was wrong. There's a typo in it. And I think the bylaw discussion going to town council, going to Mullen and the bylaw review committee, I just wanted to review that audio again and make sure it's clear because it was a little bit contradictory the way it was captured in the minutes.
Okay.
So that's all. I think it's there. I think it's just cleaning it up and making sure the motion's captured.
Okay.
We're talking about the minutes from the 4th, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Yes.
I'm sorry, where do you see the date is wrong?
Oh, I saw it on my version, but I thought I saw.
See the very top right, it says minutes 2/4/25, and the document is titled 02.04.2.
Sorry, I think it was in the, Mr. Luciani made a motion to approve the 1/7 and 1.
Oh,
Yeah. I think there was an extra number in there.
Thank you.
That's all.
Okay, so we had a second. All in favor? Ken?
Jimmy, I'm gonna vote against because I said I had edits.
Okay.
That's fine. I thought you
Okay.
I thought you guys wanted to wait till later and then talk about it. Whatever you want to do is fine.
Okay, so we've got,
I'm happy to wait to the next meeting because I just want to go back and re-listen to the audio and look at the transcript.
That's fine. I can just roll them
Okay.
over to the next one.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
so what are we doing? Are we approving the minutes or we're waiting for corrections?
no, we're tabling that.
Ooh, you're gonna get corrections.
Okay,
Get corrected minutes and deal next time.
Yeah.
okay.
And policy.
The next item is file number 648, John Manganaro. That must be you, Paul?
Yes, it is. Good evening.
Okay,
Paul Finocchio with PGF and Associates. At the last meeting was asked if I could plot the trees on the plan, so if I could share the screen.
what'd you say you want to do, Paul?
To share the screen with you.
Yep, okay, I got it.
So, if you look on the screen, this is the proposed plan. I added on the trees that are basically going to be taken out that are in the back. It falls in where the proposed deck is. There's one against the house and then one inside the house. And there was a couple that were alongside the existing house,
Yeah,
and the other ones, not sure about out in front. But again, all these trees here are outside the 100-foot
yeah,
W, but these trees in here fall within the 200-foot outer riparian line.
okay.
And I did talk to John Mangano. There was a statement asking about if he would clean up the site of the debris, and he said he would.
Okay.
And just clarifying, he is not planning to clear cut the back
No.
back portion of the lot to make a
Nope,
yard.
not touching it. We're only going as far as right in these trees here, the three trees that are around here. There's some small ones, but our limit of activity is really right in front of the pool We'll take out the remainder of the pool, take out the shed and back, and then pick up all the debris that's out there.
Great, thank you.
Everything else is going to remain the same. The trees that are running down along the sideline, those will all stay. The trees that are over in this area are going to stay along the property line.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So those those trees that are shown in the footprint of the house, are they going to be just removed or relocated?
Removed.
Okay. Anyone have questions? Nothing?
Sorry. I
Yes.
just confirm the tree policy. I mean, I think those trees around the house were like growing right next to the foundation and maybe even through the existing house. So,
Yeah.
in terms of the tree policy, I'm not sure if those would, well, they're outside the 100-foot, but I'm not sure if they would need to be replaced anyway. Would they?
Would they have to be what?
Replaced anyway under
Oh,
the tree
replaced.
policy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think so, being outside the 100-foot buffer zone.
Okay, thank you. And then my only other question too was just confirming if there's earth movement, where are you storing? Do we have a designated storage?
Most likely it's going to be trucked out with the existing house, so there probably won't be any storage on site. If there is, it may be out in front, but again, that would all be outside of jurisdiction,
Mhm.
outside the 200-foot, and well outside the 100-foot.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Okay. Okay, I guess we could use a motion, I guess, to approve the project as described and shown on the plans. Does someone want
You need
Or
to close the public
To
hearing
close,
first.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Motion to close the public hearing.
A second.
All in favor? Ken,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Eleanor,
Yes.
and I'm in agreement as well. So we close the hearing. There's
I'm present, Jim.
Oh, I didn't even see you there. I'm sorry. Paul, say,
Yeah, I'll support that as well.
okay, great. Sorry about that. We're talking about a standard order. There's no special conditions here, I wouldn't think. Do you?
Can we
Only
add
about
those?
the pool and the shed removals and leaving the rest of the vegetation in place.
Can we pull up the standard order of conditions and make edits if necessary? Is that what you're going to
I
suggest?
think Ethan offered a suggestion today in terms of some of the terms, didn't he?
Yeah, I suggested the setbacks, but you can add more special conditions if you want.
Is the removal of debris, is that a special condition to be added
I can add that, yeah.
the way
Yes.
Paul just described it?
Yeah.
Mhm. What was it about the pool and shed that you wanted, or is that included in the
Pool and
debris?
shed are to be removed along with debris in the woodland and wetland area to the rear of the property.
Point of order, is there any way we can put this up on the screen to make it accessible and write these special conditions?
Is someone doing that? I don't know.
Well, Ethan, you can do that. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Or do you want me to pull it up?
Yes, please.
Yes, and share your screen, and yeah, you can make the edits.
Ethan.
You see the screen? All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Does everyone agree with the setbacks that were presented?
And Ethan, could you walk through those?
Sure. Any changes you want with this? Just writing it out quickly.
Maybe something along the lines of leaving the rest of the vegetation as is.
Mm-hmm. I'll just write that as a separate one.
Yeah, except for trees called out for removal and plan dated, whatever, today, I think.
I'll just have to. Do you have the name of that tree plan by chance? Or I can always add it later.
Called a proposed site plan.
What was the date on that, Ken?
Hold on a second. Of 395 Vernon Street in Wakefield, Mass. It was dated November 30th, 2024. Revised February 16th, 25. By PJF and Associates. Thank you. Sorry, what was that, Paul?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
And then these were just my suggestions on the setbacks. And then I had this one as 25 as well.
Yeah, it'll be more than that because it'll be inside the limit of work, which is considerably further than 25.
Yeah, I don't think they'll get close to these setbacks, but yeah.
No.
Thank you for putting those out there
Yeah.
ahead of time. Very helpful.
My only question was if we have different setbacks for riverfront.
I don't think that counts as a wetland resource here. But I could be wrong.
What are you talking about? Temporary
Well, I'm just,
storing material?
they're in a riverfront area, so when you read 25 feet, I guess there's no mention of salt or fertilizer from the riverfront area, but just the resource area, and that's sufficient?
So the actual riverfront line is beyond the wetlands line.
Okay,
So there's existing buffer to the wetlands, and then there's an additional to get to that riverfront line.
so we should be good, is what you're saying, is, okay,
I think what was listed as protective of both.
okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else? I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Second,
We already did that.
oh wait,
Would be approving the,
the order of conditions.
so motion to approve the condition.
As drafted by Ethan, including the additional condition, 2 additional special conditions, and setbacks filled in.
What Ken said, yes.
Someone second?
Second,
All in favor? Ken,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Eleanor,
yes.
and I'm in agreement as well. Okay. I think we're all set, right?
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, I think we're all set, yeah. The next item is file number 649. Dan and Stephanie Kendall on Pheasant Wood. Are they here? Is there anyone here representing them?
Hello, Olaf Bollerton. I'm the architect.
Hi,
I'm also here, Dan Kendall, homeowner.
Elizabeth could not make it tonight. She had another hearing to go to. So
okay. All right. All right, so we continue the hearing. What were the issues at this point?
Ken and I, oh,
Sorry,
no.
go ahead.
No, last week we requested to do a site walk, and
Mhm.
Paul and I went and did a site walk, and Dan, the homeowner, showed us around and explained the plans in more detail.
Mhm.
I felt comfortable with the work they were going to do and the precautions they were going to take.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Okay. And any more comments? Okay, so we need a motion to close the hearing.
I make a motion.
Motion to-
Okay,
second.
so we have a second. Okay, all in favor? Ken,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Eleanor,
Yes.
and I'm in agreement as well. Now, the order of conditions. Do we have special conditions or is it standard order? Can you think of anything that you saw there that needed clarification?
I think just making sure the, not clarification, just making sure the, you know, if we want to specify, I have to go back and look, the plans weren't recirculated, but just again, looking at where, if there's soil removal or digging where that's going to be stored, you know, minimizing the runoff to the wetlands with the barriers. That's it.
So there was erosion control on the plans shown already, so that I don't think that needs a special condition, right? That's included.
No,
Okay,
agreed.
perfect. All right. I think the standard, and I was fine with Ethan's setbacks.
Okay, so just a standard order of conditions?
And just to clarify, the setbacks are 25 feet for all of the pertinent conditions, 38, 45 through
Mhm.
49.
Okay. Need a motion, please?
Motion to approve the order of conditions as presented.
Okay.
Second.
All in, second, okay. All in favor, Ken,
Yes,
Paul,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Eleanor,
Yes.
and I'm in agreement as well. Okay. Um, we have a
thank you.
request for determination of applicability that's scheduled for,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
okay.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everyone.
Judy, we have to wait till 7:30 to do the next one?
You should, that's the posted time.
Okay. So we got just a few minutes.
Do we want to talk about the trail steward since we have 7 minutes?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah. Let's do that. Who wants to start the
Oh.
discussion?
Would you like me? I asked Linda Ireland to apply as trail steward. She has knows the forest quite well, has been leading walks there and you know, taking inventory of the plants and landscape features. And she has expressed an interest in tagging. So that was it. She's expressed an interest in marking the trails similar to JJ Round, because currently they are poorly marked and people are taking it upon themselves to spray paint trees and rocks, which is not desirable. It would be better to, have a properly marked trail with appropriate, metal or, the little signs that were done like JJ Round. But anyway, the request for today is to approve her as trail steward. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I talked to Linda last week as well. We do have a couple of stewards on that trail, but I think it's can't hurt to have more information there.
Okay.
Which trail is she going to be involved with?
The town
Well,
forest.
the town forest.
The town forest. Okay, that's
Yeah.
a fairly substantial property, so yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I think she has an interest in, in particular, helping mark the trail, like, the one sort of big loop so people can get in and get out without getting lost. I certainly get turned around whenever I go in there. And
Yeah.
I think that'd be great. I think Linda would be an awesome trail steward.
so do I have to make a motion or?
Yeah, you can make a motion. That'll be a record.
Is that what we've done for the other stewards?
Yes.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve Linda Ireland as trail steward.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Ken,
Yes,
Paul,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Eleanor,
Yes.
and I'm in favor as well. Okay, so we've got just 4 minutes left. Why don't I think we can get started by the time we get going here. This is to confirm the wetland boundaries along the Massachusetts Bay Commuter Rail right-of-way in preparation for vegetation management. Um, What do we need to know about this? Ethan, what did you do
Um,
anything?
I think Matt Donovan's here. If you could give us some background on this project.
Yeah, I'd be happy to go over a quick rundown of the RDA submission. I'd be happy to share my screen as well to show the maps that we're seeking to get approved. All right, so you should see these maps here. I can scroll through them because they're on 5 different sheets, as it's a linear project. But I'm Matt Donovan. I'm from Benish here representing Keolis for this RDA to confirm the accuracy of the maps used for herbicide application along the commuter rail right of way. This RDA is submitted to your commission every 5 years as required by CMR 11. It's required to get these determinations before submitting our 5-year vegetation management plan to the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources. I'm happy to go over the work mentioned in the RDA and what's done each year relating to chemical application, but this RDA is specific to confirming the maps. Your commission will have the opportunity to weigh in on the plan during the vegetation management plan review process, which will be submitted in mid to late summer this year. The vegetation management plan is designed to manage and control vegetation along the railroad right away to keep it safe for operation. Regulations are in place to keep the sensitive areas protected throughout the plan, and the sensitive area restrictions are listed and described in CMR 11.04 as well as Section 8 of the Vegetation Management Plan. The maps we provided you with are made for the chemical portion of the plan, but often dictate where mechanical methods will be used due to chemical restrictions. There are 2 main chemical applications each year, one in the May to June timeframe that targets the roadbed, and one in the August-September timeframe that targets the brush and areas adjacent to the roadbed. The sensitive areas that are marked with blue and yellows on the maps are restricted from the brush program and only receive the roadbed application, which is what I'll focus on because that's the only chemical application that takes place in these sensitive areas. The roadbed application is performed by a spray truck that drives on the track and is equipped with nozzles on the backside that are located about 18 inches above the ground and spray the solution directly down as the truck drives down the track. The truck also has booms that extend out to target the shoulders of the roadbed up to 12 feet from the center of each track. The certified applicator is always accompanied by an environmental monitor, familiar with the site conditions and equipped with the maps, instructing the operator as necessary. The applicator has the ability to turn off all the nozzles, or in many cases, just one or both of the side booms to apply the mixture only down directly over the track and not to the shoulders where it may be getting into the buffer zone of a sensitive area. The yellow zones typically represent when the track is within 22 feet of a wetland boundary. The yellow zones typically don't receive any treatment. However, in some cases, just the track will be sprayed up to the edge of ties, and the booms for the shoulder will be shut off always in these areas. This is done at the applicator and environmental monitor's discretion as long as it's done within the regulations. The blue zones typically represent being within 100 feet of the sensitive area. And these zones typically receive the full roadbed treatment, but the environmental monitor and applicator are on alert in these areas and shut off the booms if there's any, if there's wet in the shoulders, including if there's water in the ditches, they'll shut off the application to these areas. The light blue zones are only sprayed once every year, which is the minimum interval, and the dark blue zones, which you do have a few in your town, are only sprayed every 2 years, which is the minimum interval for the dark blue zones. In the blue and the yellow zones, due to the limited spray, more effort is put into these areas with physical and mechanical measures to control the vegetation. The actual chemicals that are used vary each year and are typically chosen by the certified applicator in coordination with Keolis. All of the chemicals that are used will come from the approved sensitive area material list provided by Mass Department of Agricultural Resources. Each year's program mixture is included in the yearly operational plan that we send to your commission. I'd be happy to go over the maps and any questions you may have. And we will be seeking a positive 2A determination and a negative determination with that, like your commission has issued in the past, to allow us to keep doing this. So unless if you have any questions, I'll kind of scroll through. There's 5 pages of maps.
I do have one.
I have a,
Go ahead.
Yeah.
oh, I was just going to ask, is there anything that's substantially different from previous years?
Nothing that's substantially different. No.
You're using the same herbicides as you've used in previous years?
Yeah, it's all from the same list. The DAR has updated the list slightly. I think they've added a couple herbicides, but that's all at a state level that they provide the applicators with a list of what they're allowed to use, and that's all permitted at that level.
I'm not sure it's jurisdictional for us, but some of these places I see the blue is quite close to the rear of housing lots, and I'm just wondering, how do you manage that?
So the blue zones are a restriction. The white zones here, not white, but where there's no zone, where there's no color, in the field, they're marked as white. So that's why I say white zone. These zones, there's no restrictions, so they are susceptible to the brush application as well. And the brush application is what is being applied like adjacent to the roadbed. In these blue areas, it will only be receiving the roadbed treatment. So where you say it's getting close to
yeah, I mean, looking at the southern end down near the Melrose line in particular, it's right behind houses on the east side of the track from the looks.
Yeah, so that will only be receiving treatment 12 feet from the center line of the track, and it's like I said, it's applied from 18 inches above the ground, sprayed straight down into the ballast, just the ballast area of the right of way.
And how far out is it applied in the areas that are not colored there?
I mean, they can apply that up to 25 feet from the center of track. That's actually applied from the top of the truck. It's not. It still receives the roadbed program, which is the same roadbed program that's in the blue, but then it receives a follow-up program, like I mentioned, in the August timeframe, where they do the brush in areas adjacent to the track. And when they do that, they just do it to the areas that require it in the white zones, the unrestricted zones, and they will apply that from sprayers from the top of the truck, targeting specifically the overgrown areas, however far from the center of track within their property lines.
How wide are their property lines, just for curiosity?
That's a good question. I know they vary. They're typically 50 to 100 feet wide.
From the center line or full width?
Total width. I don't think they have much, unless if it's getting into like a yard area. I think it's definitely 100 feet width at most.
Okay, thanks.
I have one unrelated question for you. Along where the railroad track runs along the main street there, the track is way up in the air. At what point do they stop going up with the track? Or did you ever notice that? There's like a fence along the roadway. And I mean, we're like up at the top of the fence with the width of the roadway.
Have they been raising it?
Huh?
Have they been like raising it, or has it always been there?
No, they just replaced some track. They welded the tracks together. They put a ton of track down. It was impressive what they did, but I just didn't realize, I didn't realize that that's how they do it. But they actually end up going. They pull the track up, so you've got where the cross pieces were, and those are like 8 inches, maybe 6 inches, and so it raises it up, I don't know, maybe 4 inches, 4 or 6 inches.
Yeah, I mean, that's
It's
just
not related to this, but
no, it is impressive what they can do with the machinery they have. But yeah, that's the typical cross section of a railroad track. They would tamp the ballast under and in those ties and those cribs, and that's what provides the structural support and the drainage that's needed for these tracks.
Yeah.
It's just the ballast.
One other question, like normally it's been that the track sections aren't connected to each other, and I always thought that was for expansion of the tracks and different times of the year. Is that true? Or how is it now that they can weld the tracks together? It's just seamless now. It's just
Yeah, the actual rail, if they weld the ends of the rail together.
Yeah.
I know in areas I do work in the south, which is where you worry about that a lot more, where it gets real hot. I mean, and it gets hot here too, but they do have expansion joints. So if there's like 1,000 feet of rail, and they can put an expansion joint in, which allows the rail to slip, and it's almost like it's kind of has the same. I don't know really how to describe it, but it just kind of allows the rail to expand and contract without pulling the ties and full
Yeah.
track structure with it.
All right. Thank you very much. I was just curious about that, not related to this.
Yeah, when you don't have that engineered right, it can cause some serious damage to the track. I've seen some messed up track because of it.
Yeah.
Amen.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
May I ask a question, Jimmy?
Yeah.
Just confirm, when you say yellow is no spray, it is really no spray at all?
So in certain zones, if it's yellow, if the yellow is dictated because of, in here it's a zone A, and there will be no spray in these areas because the yellow is dictated by this zone A. But if it's a yellow dictated by a wetland, so in this area, there's no water supply zones or anything. It's wetlands. So these are automatically going to be labeled as yellow in the field. At the applicator and environmental monitor's discretion, they are able to spray directly down on the track in this area if the wetland boundary is clear in the field, is further from, if they can keep the solution further than 10 feet. So they will never spray these areas out in the shoulders. They would only spray directly down on the ties, which is the most important place to keep free of vegetation for several reasons. Inspections, they inspect this track while driving in the vehicle. But so, like, for instance, if there is going to be yellow if the wetland encroaches within 22 feet of the center of track, and that's just how these were delineated in the field. But say the wetland is, and that's because when you're the booms reach 12 feet from the center of track, they apply the solution 12 feet from the center of track, and you need to keep that 10-foot buffer from the wetland. If the wetland is, say, within 18 feet of the center of track, you can still spray straight down and keep that 10-foot buffer as long as you turn those side booms off, which they can do just with the flip of a switch. But typically they are very safe. There are a lot of requirements that go into keeping these applicator license. And Keolis has had the same applicator doing this work for the past 20 or so years. And the environmental monitor is familiar with these site conditions before they even go out. So they have a pretty good gauge on where they can and can't spray just down directly on the ties.
Okay, so it says no spray, but it sounds like the situation you're describing is more of a restrictive, like spray or spray restriction area. Would you say that? Like, you will be doing some spraying directly on the tracks, but it's not no spray. Like the
Yeah.
activity is restricted.
Yeah, I would say in the majority of the areas, it will be a no spray. But in certain areas, it could be like in every year if they do notice that the vegetation is growing up in the ballast on the track, and they need to apply it, and they can stay well outside of that 10-foot buffer. They're staying within the regulations by spraying directly down on the track in these areas.
Okay, and then how are you, I guess, differentiating between the dark blue and the light blue, the 1 year versus 2 year intervals? Was that vegetation or,
So
or something
typically
else?
typically the dark blues are not from like a wetland or a resource. It's more so for water supply zones, and that's all. I can pull up the actual restrictions where it regulates it in the CMR 11, but it's specific to like DEP Zone 1, Zone A's, water supply areas.
Okay. All right. No, that's helpful.
If they're replacing track or something in an area that's close to a wetland, do they, like say they had to pull some track up and replace the ties? What's in the ties? Is it, do you have to know how you're treating the ties?
I know a lot of timber ties are treated with either creosote or coppernath CCA treatment, pressure treated. I'm not sure if Keolis, if the commuter rail here even has timber ties though. Do you know if it's timber ties through this town?
I saw them taking up timber ties.
Okay. I know a lot of their system is transitioning to like concrete and steel ties, but I think you're right. I actually do know that these are timber ties because I was actually out here in 2024 just replacing the markers. So yeah, it just came to me. But yeah, so it's probably treated with creosote.
Mm-hmm.
And then, sorry, Mike, for the white areas, I know we focused on like the colored areas, but what you call the white or the uncolored areas, those are going to be annual, just to make sure I got that right. It's annual herbicide treatment like 2 times a year in the spring and the late summer.
Yeah, it will always get that spring roadbed treatment, and it will be susceptible to they will be able to do the brush program there too in like the August time frame for the areas that require it just in those white zones.
Okay.
And obviously it's a pretty busy town here with a lot of like businesses and houses, neighborhoods. So they like I said, they just do that. They apply it where it needs it for that second program, brush program.
There's a lot of knotweed. I'm sure people would be happy.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a good tool for that.
Okay. I don't have further questions. I think my only comment was on the yellow area, and maybe that's a standard. Like if I see no spray, I think it's, nothing, no spray at all. Whereas it sounds like what you're describing is more limited spray or restricted spray.
Yeah, other than when it's other than when it's like in a DEP, like a water supply area or a zone 1 or a zone A, then it would be a no spray.
Okay. Everyone all questioned out? So what do we want to do on this, a negative or?
We would be seeking a positive 2A with a negative. Your commission issued a -2 5 years ago when it was approved. A lot of commissions we do get a lot of -2s or -5s are pretty common too.
Yeah.
But I would be happy with a positive 2A and a -2 if that's amenable for the commission.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think the positive 2A is the most fitting here. That's part of what I had sent beforehand, Jim.
Okay. What does that stand for? Positive 2A?
Here, I'll pull it up here.
When you say it's,
You just have to like select the type of determination when you do that. So this is what it says here.
okay. Okay. Okay, so you want to repeat that? You want this as a positive what?
Positive 2A with a -2 or 5.
Ethan, so you'll figure out what to do with that, right?
Yeah.
Positive 2A. And
Yeah,
everyone else?
this is pretty consistent with a lot of towns,
Okay.
plus some guidance. So I know Matt knows what he's talking about.
Okay. So we can make a motion, I guess, to accept the plan as presented. Does that sound good? And with the notation that it's a plus 2A or a -2 or 5. Sound all right?
Yes.
I made the
Great.
motion.
A second.
I'll second.
Okay, so all in favor? Ken,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Eleanor,
Yes.
and I'm in agreement. Okay. You're all set.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for describing all that.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so we're going to go on to other business now, and the first item is wetland bylaw discussion. Um, All right, Eleanor, why don't you tell us what we need to know on this?
Well, I invited Tom Mullen here. He had provided comments, which I forwarded and shared with everybody. I'm hoping, Ethan, if you can share your screen, that might be helpful. I am really having a lot of trouble with my computer tonight.
Okay.
So I'd appreciate if somebody else can do the sharing. And I thought, Tom, maybe it makes sense to sort of open it up to you to say if you had any, sort of high level process feedback or concerns that maybe, or suggestions that you didn't put directly into the document, but how we might want to approach this.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me and for getting to this project, which is, if anything, very overdue. And I found out just how overdue it was when I went looking for a file to put this in. I, in fact, had a wetlands bylaw file, and the only thing in it was a draft from June 29, 1993, which was delivered by the then Conservation Commission to my predecessor as town council, Mario Simiola, the year before I was appointed. So this has been just, it's seen enough gestation.
Mm.
And as I understand it, a local wetlands bylaw is chiefly useful in order to go beyond the limits of what the Wetlands Protection Act will protect. And if you have a bylaw that is more protective than the wetlands bylaw, than the Wetlands Protection Act and its regulations, then a developer has to satisfy not only the WPA, but also you and your bylaws requirements. And if they get turned down, then they have to go both through the DEP process and also to Superior Court to challenge through what's called a certiorari action, your determination under your bylaw. I thought it was a very good draft bylaw, and while the comments and edits that I made were mostly just editorial. If I were to focus on the ones that are substantive, I just point out that if you are going to have a provision about independent consultants, and I strongly recommend you do, you have to do that in rules and regulations that the Conservation Commission promulgates under this bylaw or under the Wetlands Protection Act. You don't do so in the bylaw itself. There's a statute, Chapter 44, Section 53G, that tells us that that's how you do it.
And Tom, you've edited that section of the draft to
Yeah.
reflect that. That was section 5E, I think.
Yes. So I left in the beginning of it.
Right.
I think you want to make express that that the bylaw gives the commission authority to promulgate regulations. But everything that you've got below that, in which I highlighted in gray, that gets put into your rules and regulations.
Mm-hmm. Ethan, are you able to share your screen by any chance?
Does anyone else have it up at the moment?
I have it. I can do it.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
think. Well, let me open. I'm going to have to actually download and open it to get it up on the screen.
I can try, but I'm going to shut off my video so I can do it. Yeah.
I've got it now. Sorry.
Oh, and one other thing that I wanted to bring up with you was in section 5B, it talks about the process of going to a hearing. That is, that the hearing opens within 21 days of the application, and they get their decision within 21 days after the close of the hearing. And that's fine. That, as you know, follows the model of the Wetlands Protection Act.
Right.
Then you have this. The commission shall have the authority to continue the hearing to a date certain announced at the hearing for reasons stated at the hearing. I think we'd have a problem with the Attorney General on that. That is, the regulations under the Wetlands Protection Act require the assent of the applicant to go beyond 21 days. And this would appear to grant you unilateral authority to extend indefinitely. I don't see an endpoint here.
Mm.
So take a look at, and I have the site in here, 310 CMR 10.055B, and see how they handle the subject of extending hearings under the Wetland Protection Act. I'd suggest you follow the same format under your bylaw.
Mhm.
And then there was in section 5A, something else that I think isn't quite what you want to say. It says, no filing fee shall be required under the Town of Wakefield bylaw review. Isn't it possible that there would be a project that requires review under the bylaw, but not under the act? And if that is true, then I think you need to make some kind of provision for a filing fee. Anyway, as you can see, these are very
Those would be
minor.
called out in the regulations.
Yes, they would be called out in the regulations.
Okay.
Well, you could do that, but I think, yeah, and you'd want to get specific about the amount in the regulations. But here, I think it's probably important to say how you're going to handle the situation where there is jurisdiction under the bylaw, but no jurisdiction under the act. And I think you'd probably want to say the same filing fee that you'd pay under the act to get an NOI, you're going to require to be paid in this situation.
Would it be safe to say something along the lines of no additional filing fee?
But that begs the question, what if there's no filing fee under the act because the act, there's no jurisdiction under the act? You know, if you're doing some, just hypothetically, if the act says there's jurisdiction to 100 feet and the bylaw says there's jurisdiction to 150 feet, well, there's a 50-foot no man's land there where the act does not apply, but the bylaw does. And so if somebody needs to come in and get authorization to do work in that 50-foot zone, what fee do they pay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess that situation could arise if we have a small vernal pool, right, in a woodland kind of thing that's not adjacent to a wetland.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's something for us to think about.
Yeah, and otherwise, my comments really just reflect the fact that my mother was an English teacher. So don't take it personally.
No, it's helpful. So,
But you're
I guess-
recommending we pull all of that under E after the discussion of independent consultant out and put it into regulations.
Yes.
Okay.
yeah. And then in terms of promulgating rules and regulations, do those have to get approved? Those get approved by town council, whereas the bylaw, I just wanted to confirm what the process is with those, if it's the same or different.
Sure. The bylaw has to be approved by majority vote at town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
It is a general as opposed to a zoning bylaw. If it were a zoning bylaw, it would require a 2/3 vote. But this is a general bylaw, so mere majority suffices. And being a multi-member board, you have the right to place any article on the warrant. So you can get this on the warrant just by telling the town council that you want to. The rules and regulations are for your body to create, your commission. And all you have to do then to do that is to comply with the open meeting law. That is, make sure that whenever you are addressing the issue of rules and regulations or adopting them or amending them, that you say so in your agenda. You don't have to have a public hearing. If people show up and want to talk about it, you don't have to listen to them. If you do listen to anybody, I'd recommend that you listen to everyone. I'm certainly not suggesting that a public hearing is a bad idea, but I think it's always important to understand what you have to do, what you may do, and what you can't do. So does that answer your question?
Yes, I think so. So is that clear to everybody else? So that does not
Yes.
go through the bylaw. We can set the rules and regulations ourselves in a public meeting.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
or multiple meetings if necessary. And everything else, as Tom noted, is sort of dealing with the language issues.
Mhm. Do you have any, I know
Ooh.
you've worked, sorry, Tom, you've worked with a number of different towns. Do you have any regulations that you've seen that you like, that you think are particularly clear and efficient?
I think highly of the Linfield Conservation Commission and its work. Yeah, I think it would be worthwhile for you to look at the Linfield Concom regs.
Okay.
Tom, it looks like you have some concerns on, what page is this? I've got it on the screen right now around ORAD. Just some questions, I guess. We need to at least come together and think about these.
Oh, yeah. So a couple of things. When on the next to last page, we deal with ORADs, and in the section entitled Expiration of Permit, we say that an ORAD expires in 3 years from the date of issuance. Well, first, this is close to the end of the bylaw, and I don't believe I saw anything previously about the granting of an ORAD. So if an ORAD is something like a determination of applicability or a notice or an order of conditions, that is something that you give an applicant in response to a petition or application, I think we need to say so early in the bylaw. And second, near the bottom of that page, it says the issuance of an ORAD shall not be considered final action on such a boundary delineation request. I don't understand that. Then what's the point if it's not final action? If we say an ORAD is always up for grabs, can always be changed, then what does it mean to say that it expires after 3 years? In fact, it expires immediately if that's what your commission wants. I think there's got to be some kind of finality to any order including an order of resource area delineation.
I think some commissions may restrict when they do wetland delineations. And so they have potentially more certainty around when they're doing them. We could look at how they've worded the language for those ones.
Tom, would the ORAD, the way they've written it up here, work for something like we just did with the railroad company? It's a continuous type of thing that's always got to be renewed.
Well, I think I think the idea is to have a period of repose. That is, when an owner wants to do some work, of course, the first thing you need to do is figure out where the resource areas are and aren't. And so in the first instance, they need to do a determination of applicability or seek an order of resource area delineation. But then they wouldn't want to do that over again. They wouldn't want to reinvent the wheel any more than they have to. So you need to give them, I think, some period of time during which they can rest on the determination that they got from you. And then if they don't need to do any more work, you may never hear from them again. But if they do want to do more work, if the prior ORAD has expired, then they've got to prove to you just where the line is.
It looks like you're having some problems then with that whole amendments to permits section in L.
Yeah, the first line says amendments to any permits shall be handled in the manner set out in the Wetlands Protection Act regulations and policies thereunder. I just don't understand what that means. Can you tell me what it does mean? Anyone?
I cannot. Eleanor, did you?
Yeah, I think I had pulled this. I was looking at two templates, the Concord bylaw template and the MACC, which is the Mass Association of Conservation Commissions templates. And they had included this language for amendments to permits. But I can, is it that you want to understand what specifically the Wetlands Protection Act says, or?
Well, does this mean, for example, that to whatever extent the Wetlands Protection Act requires publication and notice for an amendment, that you're going to need the same publication and notice? I guess that's what it means. I just prefer to see us be more specific.
Okay.
It's just to say it shall be handled in the same manner just sounds kind of loose, non-specific, like something I'd write when I was getting tired.
Okay. There was not very much original thought on this, so I'm happy to take a look at this again, and I'm sure the commission is too.
It does talk about reoccurring or continuous maintenance work. I mean, to me, that sounds like they might get something started and have to quit for a while, and then instead of going back and getting another permit, they can still use that permit up to 5 years, or I don't know. It just seems like it's geared towards maintenance.
Well, we've got 2 dates there in expiration, Jim. There's a
Yeah, right. This
fundamental
is three. This is
3-year from date of issuance,
5 year.
but we can grant 5 years for recurring or continuous maintenance.
Right. That's where it's, in my mind, it says it's maintenance.
Yeah, I mean, but it's for different kinds of activities.
Yeah,
The 3 years is essentially if we grant a homeowner or a business a permit or determination of actability or a RED, they've
Yeah.
got 3 years that they can have confidence. But if
right.
you give something to Keolis, for example, for maintenance,
Yeah, like if the town had to put in some pipeline through a wetland, and they could only get so far for whatever reason, had to come back to it later. So then they can, if they, as long as it wasn't over 5 years, they could go back again and finish the job.
assuming we granted that at the time.
Well, yeah, you have to have granted it. Yeah.
And we can talk about this more when Tom isn't here, but we should look at situations, just going back to that letter L, amendments to permits. Has the commission ever had a situation where a permit was amended? Because maybe we don't really need that.
Yes, they have.
They have? Okay.
I think we need to look at what Wetlands Protection Act regulations say.
Okay. Does anybody else have more questions for Tom? Attorney Mullen?
No, I think these are helpful comments because there's some places we need to clean this up. And that's what we do.
Attorney Mullen, would you suggest that we, I guess, draft regulations before taking this to, to a town meeting?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I kind of doubt that anybody at town meeting is going to base their vote on whether you've already done the regulations. And that can be kind of a lot of work. I think you probably want to focus on satisfying yourself that you've done a good draft of the bylaw, and then doing the political work to pass it at town meeting. It's not going to be easy. I think, I'm not sure, but I think that there have been attempts previously to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, back in 93, there was, I think, a longer draft than what you've got. I think it was actually attempted at town meeting and defeated because everybody can just imagine, oh my gosh, that might mean that I can't do what I want to do with my backyard.
That's exactly what happened, Tom. And plus we had fines on it too, and people were going upset about putting a fine out there. That was a hard one to get over. Actually, I think that killed it.
And then in terms of a warrant article, I guess, would you recommend, I think one idea that had been floated was doing a repealing a stream setback standard, which we think is not efficient and is a burden on applicants, and replacing it with the wetlands, like with the wetlands bylaw, or would you keep the two things completely separate?
Yeah, I think it probably makes sense to repeal that other provision, which is really very unusual provision. And we've had trouble with the wording of it in the past. And instead have a wetlands bylaw. I've always felt it was odd that Wakefield, which is one of the, larger and better organized towns in the Commonwealth, doesn't have a wetlands bylaw. Many towns that are smaller and not anywhere nearly as sophisticated, have them and benefit from them.
Yeah.
Great. No, this is all extremely helpful. I think our next step was to talk to the bylaw review committee. I guess take your comments, incorporate them, talk to the bylaw review committee, and then see how they would fit it in, like where it would fit in the new codification, and if it makes sense to go to the April town meeting, or if we wait and do November. I assume just getting the bylaw recodification passed by voters would be a big undertaking, and who knows, maybe they might not have the appetite to have groups tacking on a lot of changes at the same time. I don't know, but if you have any thoughts on that or suggestions, that would be great.
So is it anticipated that the codification is going to be at the annual town meeting or the fall one?
I had understood it was going to be in May, but I could be mistaken. Maybe that's a good question to follow up on and make sure my information's correct.
Yeah. I'm just thinking that it's rather a lot to, it's a pretty big mouthful to do a zoning codification and a new wetlands bylaw at the same time. Again, I think there's a lot of political groundwork that you're going to want to do to make sure that even at just a majority vote, that you get your voters there.
Okay, nope, that's helpful. Anyone else? Oh, I guess last question while we have you here. Since it's a committee and some of us would attend the bylaw, review committee meeting, I assume we can attend, but we cannot, what's the word? We can't confer. We just ask questions, right? And that's it, and then take it back? Or what guidance would you give us on that front?
That's right. That's right. That's a good question. Under the open meeting law, all of you or any of you can go to the meeting of another public body, such as the bylaw review committee, and you can participate as members of the public. So if you go there, make sure you sit wherever the public is seated, if it's a live meeting, not up with the members of the bylaw review committee. If it's a remote meeting, make sure that you participate only in the same way that a member of the public could. And do not confer among yourselves, don't deliberate among yourselves. Address your comments and questions only to the bylaw review committee. And don't take any votes.
Okay. Good advice. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom.
It's very
thanks for the
helpful
invitation. Anytime.
and encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
So sounds like we have a few things to clean up.
All right. We're going to move down to the town forest discussion. Was that really just for Linda? Oh, no, that's a discussion of the trail steward appointment.
Now, town forest, you want to talk about Elaine writing a letter asking town council to transfer to the commission.
Yeah, I think Elaine is working on that. I don't think she's done with it, but we can grab her as she was going to write that up. So I'll call her, I guess, and see where she's at with it.
Is that something she would share with the commission first?
If she, yeah, why not?
Yeah, and potentially take comments.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I can do that.
I thought you were bringing up Town Forest about the marking the trails. And I was hoping, Ethan, you could find out how JJ Round was marked because it was the exact same situation.
Yeah, I think they had to go to town council, but I reached out to Steve Mayo just to confirm that.
I don't think they would. We've had Boy Scouts. We sent Boy Scouts to town council.
The Eagle
Like for
Scout
Mark?
project, yeah, that's how that got done, the JJ Round Trail. And that went to the commission and to town council.
Okay, and who brought it forward? I thought Rebecca had worked on it.
The project, the Eagle Scout did. They presented it to they posed it to the commission and asked if there was interest, and then they made the presentation.
The Eagle Scouts marked the trail at JJ Round.
I think it was part of their project.
And they procured the signs and everything. Like, we
They
don't have
made the
any.
signs. Yep, they make the signs as part of the project.
Do you know when it went to town council by any chance?
I could find out. It was a couple of years ago.
Okay, because it might be helpful to look at the meeting materials that was sent to town council on it. I guess it's confusing because in the trail steward guide, it says trail stewards can assist in putting signage.
Right. But that's once the commission, I mean, it would have to be paid for. It would have to be, anything like that would have to be approved by town council. Because they have that, I think they have some kind of structure policy. I think that covers the whole town. Mention structure policy, it might be called.
Oh, okay. 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 Thank you, Judy. That's really helpful to know.
Sure.
Yeah, if you by any chance can get your hands or on that date of that Eagle Scout or the year presentation
I'll find
to
out.
town council, that would be super helpful. Thank you.
Okay, is everyone satisfied? No more discussion on those topics? The last item we have is open space and recreation plan discussion.
I had some comments from our town council meeting. I can share those if you want to start to discuss those.
Yeah.
That would be great. So did anybody watch the meeting? I know I watched it. The presentation to town council.
I'm sorry, I'm just a little confused on some of these that seem to just be statements. Like this first one. What, I'm not exactly sure what the issue is here or how to resolve.
I think it might be helpful to watch the meeting. It sounded like town council had laid out a bunch of questions in July that didn't get answered to their or addressed to their satisfaction, and posed them again. These questions seem to be from Councillor Vincent. I'm not sure it incorporated some of the other councillors' comments. But I think you might have to go to the top. I think the big concern was who gave the authority for the consultant to file the draft plan with the state. I think that was his biggest concern, because he felt there were errors in the plan, and the clock has started ticking. So we're 1 year into a 7-year plan. And it seems like overall, I guess my takeaway from watching the meeting was that there are questions that just, need to be addressed, formally back to the town councilors, and make it clear whether they've been addressed, how they were addressed, or if they weren't, why they weren't. Was that your assessment?
Is Horsley Witten still, sorry. Is Horsley Witten, Horsley Witten still working with us on this at all?
There's a small amount left in the budget.
Is this something that we're able to send to them and have them at least give us action points on what we need to do to resolve this?
What would you want them to resolve, though?
Well, as an example, on the comment number 2, I think comment number 4 sort of loops back to comments 2 and 3, where we're assigning responsibilities to the town administrator.
Right, but the town administrator does appoint the recreation. This was a request that was put in for an assistant recreation director from the recreation department. That's why it was in there. They had requested that.
Can we back up a sec? Well, do we know who authorized the consultants to file this on behalf of the town? That's kind of unusual.
No, it isn't unusual, though. What do you mean? Because, I mean, when we reviewed this, when the committee reviewed it, it was agreed that everything was what we thought it was. I mean, the comments that were made, like about the school department properties, that was something from the previous plan that was never corrected, and that was since corrected, that it's town-owned, school-managed properties. So I don't really understand that question, because the committee reviewed it for 2 years, had the public meetings, got all the input, and did the editing to, the extent that we thought was correct. And then the next step was to send it to the state for the review. That's part of the process.
But the minutes don't, I think Councillor Vincent was asking a very specific question about who authorized it, because.
But I don't know why there needed to be a specific authorization. If the plan was completed to what the committee thought it was, then the next step is to send it to the state. Because that's what we were working towards, is to send it to the state for their review.
I know, like my company does work for the state, and we wouldn't do anything without, there's typically a person that's on the side, particularly municipality, that's designated to enter into kind of final contracts or, do these things. So are you saying you submitted it? And that's,
The consultant submitted it. I mean, I guess I don't understand the problem with this.
I think there's just potentially two conversations kind of happening here
okay.
about the process by which things are submitted and what approvals are needed, and that for sure is a conversation that can be had at some point. But putting that aside for a moment, I'm not sure what that has to do with the issues like that we're looking at here on this regarding the plan itself.
Well, the town councilors who expressed concern that this was submitted without the necessary letters of support, including from the town council.
Right, but that isn't, it was specified that they knew that those letters were pending, and that was the same with the last plan.
Okay. And then of course, these requests. When I went back and looked at the minutes, I saw, like, from the conservation, like from your meeting minutes, you had requested a full-time conservation agent. I didn't see in the minutes the request for a recreation director. So I was confused how the action plan actually came together myself, because your last set of minutes said you were going to regroup on the action plan after the public, the public forum in January. So that's, this was before my time. But again, I think they would find issues with having specific goals like this. So, I think they're looking for responses from us. So on the action plan, would we change that and remove town administrator? And we say something like work towards and what our proposed funding source is. I mean,
Is this just a partial list of what needs to be corrected?
I think this is a partial list. I think from July, there were comments or questions that just we should address.
Okay.
Some of them are the same in this list. And some have been addressed.
Oh.
Do you think we can just get the whole thing together and start to go through addressing what the concerns are?
I think so. I mean, Judy, if you think you have responses that adequately address this, I would literally bullet out the comments and then your responses. I just didn't, I'm a little concerned that they didn't get responses since July, or they didn't hear from us since July, and we weren't aware of some of their concerns.
But that isn't the responses were sent in October with the draft. It wasn't that they just got them now.
But did we, like, I didn't see the responses. Like, I think their perception is the role of the commission should play an oversight role and be familiar with the plan and, and review it. I think there are things that went to town council that we haven't seen.
Like what?
Like the exchange between the consultant and the state. I think that's another request, was for us to look at the draft responses. Go further down your thing, Ethan. The draft responses and make sure they're accurate. You know, some of the response, and again, I didn't do a full review. I just looked and saw some things, I think, where they asked us to respond about forest and put more detail in our write-up, whatever. I don't know what the first draft that was sent, that's another issue, so I can't speak to it. But what's in the forest section is, you know, that there's 30 acres of forest attached to the Northeast Metropolitan Vocational School. And we know that's not the case anymore. So I'm not sure we should put that in an updated response. I'm a little concerned on the accessibility front. We have action items, you know, that we refer to that are going to happen in year one, but in the actual accessibility assessment, they're not happening till 2031 or after. So it's a little bit disjointed. I think we just need to take a look at it and make sure it lines up and makes sense. I mean, Ethan, do you want to share, like, can you share those letters that were sent to town council? Or I guess, well, they're on the town council package, which is really long. But I would, just speaking as a board member, I'd rather see something before it goes to another committee, you know, and not see it after the fact. Do you want to go, are there any others, Ethan? Do you want to go through those?
This is all I had here.
Okay.
So this is a digest of what Counselor Vincent and others raised in the meeting.
This is directly what Counselor Vincent had sent to Jim and I.
Oh, he actually sent this to you. Okay.
Yes. This is what he said, his words exactly.
All right. Thanks.
You know, I think in July, Councilor Dombrowski raised some process questions that should probably be addressed. I know there were some others, but, and I know you guys probably received emails that we didn't receive. So, you know, I think we should just make sure we respond and the answers make sense.
And that they're incorporated into the redraft of the OSRP, I would think too.
Yeah, but I'm just curious, what was the advantage in submitting it before you get letters? Like, if you don't, Judy, can you clarify that?
I think because it was felt that we would have them faster.
Okay.
And Division of Conservation Services is generally slow with review, and this time they were much faster. So if you don't get it in, it could be 5 months before they review it. So that was the lead time.
And then did you guys also, I was concerned, we've talked about protecting town forest, and I could not find that in the action plan. You know, so personally, I just want to make sure you guys are comfortable with the action plan, because I worry,
But
you
I
know,
think because that was under the tax title review. And that's the letter that Elaine is writing.
so it's happening outside. My only concern is if we have something like, if we don't have something like that, would somebody say, oh, well, it's not part of the open space and recreation plan, so we're not going to approve that, or we're not going to let that happen? And then on the flip side, if we have stuff in the plan that are so concrete, like roll out a pocket park every year, hire.
But those are goals. That's not a hard demand for a pocket park. And there are 2 pocket parks that are going to be coming on in this year.
Right, right. So I think the request there would be to edit our language so it's not worded the way it is right now.
I mean, it would appear we need to have the consultant work with Ethan and Judy to respond to these issues and address them in the drafting, no?
I don't think the consultant needs to respond to it.
You think this should be something that that you and Ethan can address?
Well, I don't know that. I mean, I've worked on this for 2 years. When Rebecca left, I took on more of it.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's discouraging as a volunteer. That there are all these comments now and all these deficiencies that are seen when it's been a process for 2 years.
But I don't think we're in a position to just thumb our nose at the.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
Well, I think we just need to address it. And then also just take a look. This has been a lot of responsibility on one person. The Open Space and Recreation Committee hasn't met since January of 2024, for the public hearing. So I'm not sure they've seen, they've seen the updated drafts.
But at that point, it was finalized. That was why there weren't meetings after that. Because that was when we thought everything was final and it was going to the state.
I'll go back and look. I'm pretty sure in the last meeting minutes, you guys had an action item to reconvene and adopt the action plan after public input from the forum. So I'm not sure we're going to resolve this tonight, particularly if people didn't watch the town meeting or town council meeting, or they haven't revisited the action plan to just look at the concerns that were raised. So if you guys want to take a stab at summarizing the responses and we put it on the agenda to look at it
Next meeting.
At the next meeting, I think that would make sense.
I think that's a good plan.
Yeah.
And I think, sorry, did he capture it in here? I think Councillor Vincent was also wanted to kind of understand a little bit more, my listening to the meeting, if it would make sense to repeal and resubmit. versus just amending. His big concern was that right now, the original draft that had the 10 sort of action items tagged to the town administrator was on file with the state. And I don't have a copy of that version, so I can't see what those are. The versions I've seen have only had the 3 tagged to the town administrator. So Judy, that would be helpful if you could send the original version that went to the state. Or I don't know if you want to post it, like however you think.
Yeah, I'll find it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, why don't we leave it at this then for now?
Okay.
So we'll be coming back to it in a couple of weeks.
Yep. Okay, if everyone is all set, then someone can make a motion to adjourn.
Can I ask one more question? Have we received any applications?
Say that again?
Have we received any applications
Or
to join the commission?
Concom membership?
Yes.
Not yet, not that I know of.
Ethan, Judy, do you guys?
No, not that I know of, no.
No, they wouldn't come to me.
Where did they go? How would we find out then?
I think Sherry would send them. So I don't know if she's received any. I haven't heard anything.
Would it help to reword this job description, or is there something in that maybe that's holding people back?
The Conservation Commission? Oh, no, I
I don't know that there
think
is.
Hmm?
I don't think so. It's just the deadline, I think, was at the beginning of February. So I thought you would have heard. I'm not sure if they wait and let you know later in March.
I think we've been waiting a long time right now.
Okay, it's curious because
I'd give it a couple of weeks, I guess, and Jim or I will probably hear from Sherry if anything happens. But yeah, I know the deadline's passed already.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to adjourn the meeting if everyone's happy.
Second.
Did you second it, Haley?
Yes, I did.
Okay. All in favor? Paul?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Eleanor?
Yes.
And I'm in favor as well.
Okay.
Can all go home.
Thank you.